We're here to go over UFC 304. Leon Edwards taking on Bilal Muhammad for a second time. But real quick, man, I want to go over a bunch of stuff. As far as the betting results from the last card, UFC Denver, my two big plays that I gave out, those hit. 1 unit play at plus 105 on Luana Santos and Gabriel Bonfin, and then a plus money play on John Silva, just $100. Parlay didn't hit. I only had one parlay on this card. I told you I'm trying to cut back on wasting money on parlays, but Christian Rodrigues is the one that killed my parlay. The whole thing would have hit otherwise. And y'all remember in my last video, I was telling y'all, man, be careful, going against a Rosa and loading up on a bunch of money on him, against him or whatever, because he's won a lot of fights, man, that he shouldn't have won, or you wouldn't think he would win. He's got a lot of wins over really good people, and he's very dangerous. And I'm really mad at myself because I was really kind of wanting to pick a Rosa, and I ended up just kind of going with the narrative, of everybody else that's talking about how great Christian Rodrigues is, and Rosa's chin and everything else. Even though I kind of really wanted to pick him, but I went against him, because I didn't want to pick him and him go out and get knocked out and look like an idiot. But so yeah, I mean, that was a good card, for me as far as money wise. There's only two. I kept it simple, which is something I should do more often. Two bets, a little over $1,000 profit. So, I mean, I should keep it simple more often maybe, but I was a little nervous on John Silva, but he ended up going out there and dominating pretty handedly, man, and was really impressed with him, up a weight class. So, yeah, please like and subscribe, guys. It'll help me out a lot. I'm getting close to 900 subscribers, man. I really want to get up past 1,000 so I can see if, where I can go from there and maybe possibly make a few bucks doing these videos, but And if you're new to the channel, what I do is I go through and I give out all my picks for each of the fights, and at the end of the video, I give out my bets and my parlays. And if you're not interested in watching my videos, you just want to see my picks and my bets, you can go to my social medias. HighKick_FightPicks is Instagram and TikTok. And then there's a Facebook group, High Kick Fight Picks on Facebook. Pretty easy to find. Feel free to post anything you want in there that's MMA related. Post your bets. I want to see everybody's stuff. I love bouncing ideas off of each other. And the goal is just to help everybody, each other win money, man. So that's why I don't charge people money for bets, And also, man, I wanted to touch on something else. So I went ahead and cut ties with Bet Us. It's one of the books that I just kind of wound up having some money on. I took advantage of their bonuses and made some money with the money I put on there, and I had it on there for quite a while, and occasionally I would bet some of it or whatever, but I didn't realize there were people that reached out to me like, yeah, Bet Us kind of makes it really hard for you to get your money, and I was like, man, I didn't have that experience, but I think it was because I was betting, $1,000 at a time or whatever. I rolled my money over really quickly, so it wasn't hard for me to get the money or whatever, and they do make it, pretty hard, I guess, after looking into it, to get your money, and I apologize. And also the other thing that was like a couple people that signed up, like reached out to me, were like, yeah, they've been calling me trying to get me to make a deposit, and I was like, dude, that's so stupid, and I didn't realize, that they, would be doing that, and honestly, they reached out to me, so that's the only reason that they were the only book that actually reached out to me, and was like, hey, we want to work with you. So, I thought it would be a good thing. And either way, man, I tried to reach out to them. It took me 3 days to get a hold of somebody that mattered, that could actually even hear what I, wanted to tell them. And I was just trying to give them some pointers about, ways to make their sports book better. And that way more people would be interested in signing up because, I didn't make any money advertising for them because their book's not all that great compared to like Bovada, or DraftKings or anything. So, and they were very disrespectful to me when I tried to talk to them about that. And so I just, was like, fuck y'all, pulled my money off, and then I immediately reached out to bovada.lv, which is the book that I've always used. Y'all know that after watching the channel. I'll show you tons of tickets here in a minute, winning tickets that I've cashed out from them. And they were who I wanted to work with originally, but I just couldn't get a hold of the right people to work with them, and eventually I was able to do it after I got rid of BetUs. So I mean, I got my link set up and everything, and if you're looking for a good sports book, guys, or if you just want to help out the channel, use my link. It's going to be down in the comments for bovada.lv. To me, it's the best book. They offer early cash outs on your parlays, easy payouts. I've made tons of money, on this sports book, and yeah, and you don't have to, sign up and use any bonuses or anything like that or promo codes. You can just sign up with my link and deposit your money straight, embed it straight, so you don't have any problems getting your money out. You don't got to roll it over, whatever. And it's a way better sports book, guys. And just to kind of give you an idea of, I'm not bullshitting or whatever, but I'll pull up my Instagram real quick. Not gonna worry about that. And there would be a lot more tickets on here, guys, but that normally I just use my flyers that I make, to show what bets won or whatever. Yeah, I usually only screenshot the tickets and show them to you if it's something that I didn't post ahead of time, like this parlay that I rebuilt, almost $800 that I won there. That's something I rebuilt, so I took a screenshot of it to show you guys. But scrolling down through here, there's another almost $725 ticket. That's off Bovada. There's my ugly face. Let's get down here. And last year I was fucking winning tons of money, man. And here's another almost $800 16 parlay that I won on the PFL. And here's two ones that hit, a parlay that hit, and a 10-fight parlay that hit, and a 2-fight parlay that hit. Petrino and Joe Anderson Brito. But I guess I didn't show the cashed out tickets on that. These are the ones that I posted ahead of time. So here's a $1,500 winning ticket. I don't remember which card that was on. Mariscal, Jackson, Bahamundes, Campbell, Morono, whatever. But here's another winning ticket, $625 on a parlay. Here's a almost $700 winning ticket on Ursig, mokaev, Petrino, all off Bovada. Here's a $1,300 winning ticket, $1,400 basically, on a 3-fight parlay. Trying to get down here to when I was really winning, a couple $1,000 every weekend. Here's a $1,700 ticket on Ferrari and Ankalaev. A $523 ticket on the same night on a 16 parlay. Here's a $1,500 winning ticket and a $1,200 winning ticket, both on the same night. And here's some more. Here's a $2,500, almost $2,600 winning ticket on Estevam and Morales. Some parlays that hit there, but either way, you get the point, man. I've been using Bovada for a long time. There's an almost $2,000 winning ticket. Leskarov, Mokaev, Nurmagomedov. But yeah, man, I just wanted to show you guys, that it's a good book. It's easy to get your money. I wish that I was smarter with my money, because if I had saved all this money, I would have, probably $100,000 in my betting account instead of, 5,000 or 6,000 right now. But this is the way I like to bet. A lot of people just bet parlays, and I understand that. I wonder if I have a picture of the biggest parlay that I ever won on here. It might have been this one. No. Some sirens going off. Let me just see if I can find that big parlay so I can show y'all how I got started. A lot of winning tickets though, man. There was a big parlay that I hit a few years ago, man, that started me off, being able to bet the way that I bet now, It was it was almost like a $7,000 or $8,000 ticket. If I could find it. Sorry, I'm dragging this out, guys. 909 was a winning ticket. Wish I could remember what card it was on. I think it was on the Derek Lewis versus Tai Tuivasa card. Can you believe my flyers used to look like this? and that used to be the cover for my YouTube channel. There's a winning ticket off Bet Us for $1,600. I guess I'll quit dragging it out, guys. It's somewhere down here. It's a big winning ticket. Um, but yeah, man, I won like $10,000 in 2 weeks one time, and that kind of changed the way that I was able to bet. And now I bet mostly single plays and two fight parlays, and that's where I make all my money. And that's just the easier way for me. It doesn't work for everybody. A lot of people are good at parlays or whatever, but for me, it's like I love those two fight parlays because usually if you can get two fighters together, you can get a little bit of plus money, drop 1,000 on that, and you get over 1,000 profit back. That's my favorite way to do it. But the safest way, in my opinion, is to bet per fight, single fight bets, but you don't make as much that way. But it's less risky than two fight parlays. So, but a lot of people bet parlays, man, and I get that, man. I put them in every week, even though sometimes it's a waste of money. But you saw the tickets though. There's a lot of winners on there as well. But yeah, man. So Bovada's a good book, and if you're interested, like what I do, you want to help out the channel, sign up on there and make a deposit or whatever, and try to win some money. And as far as anything else, I don't think there's anything else I need to talk about. We lost Sean Bannon versus Ravina Oliveira, and they already announced a replacement for Oliveira. Christian Roy Duncan was supposed to fight Robert Brzski. He's now fighting Gregory Rodrigues. So yeah, let's get into this card, guys. I don't think there's anything else I need to talk about. Shauna Bannon taking on Alice Ardelean from Romania. And Shauna Bannon is 30 years old. She's 5'5" with a 65-inch reach. She is 5-1 and 0-1 in the UFC. And the odds for this fight aren't up yet. There's still, all the books that I was looking at still have the odds up for her versus Oliveira. And she was an underdog versus Oliveira. And I was kind of looking forward to betting against her. Excuse me. I was kind of looking forward to betting against her in that fight, and yeah, but now they switched the opponent out on me. So, but yeah, so got lost there. 2 wins by knockout, no wins by submission. I don't understand why the UFC really even signed her. With that little experience, I guess she did have a pretty long amateur career as well, but nothing all that impressive in her debut. Decent boxing. Didn't seem to be hurting her opponent at all with her punches. I was looking forward to going against her, like I said, but they switched her opponent out to someone who doesn't look that great either. Shannon will be the bigger woman in this fight with a 4-inch reach advantage, and based on what I've seen, I think Bannon, probably going to be better everywhere here outside of the submissions, on the ground, but I don't know that Ardelean will be able to get her to the ground. And she's taking on Alice Ardelean. She is 32 years old, 5'3" with a 61-inch reach. She is 9-5, and this is going to be her UFC debut. And on very short notice, she does have losses on her record to some people that ended up in the UFC, and both of those losses were by submission. She lost to Diana Belbita and also Weili Zhang, the current champ, before. And she's won her last 7 fights, but they're all wins over people with little to no experience and bad records. Show you what I'm talking about. Yeah, she's got win. I guess this is some kind of TV show in Romania, maybe, or I don't know what country it's in. The Fighter season 2. So those are probably kind of like the Ultimate Fighter fights, there. So probably not against super high level competition. She's beat a 3-4 opponent here, an 0-1-0 opponent here, a 2-0 opponent, 0-3, 0-3 opponent. So not a lot of high level competition at all. So I mean, yeah, I mean she does actually have submission wins, unlike Bannon. So I mean she might have the edge there. But after watching the tape and everything, I don't have too much to say on this one. I do think Bannon wins this fight, and I'm going to take her to win by decision. But there are kind of a lot of unknowns with Ardelean here, so I'm probably going to stay away from this one altogether. I don't know what the line's going to look like. Bannon will probably end up being a ridiculous favorite, and I don't want to pay that amount of money for her. So, Next up, we got Christian Leroy Duncan taking on Gregory Rodrigues, RoboCop. And Christian Leroy Duncan is 29 years old. He is 6'2" with a 79-inch reach. He is 10-1 and 3-1 in the UFC, and he's a minus 125 favorite. 8 wins by knockout, 1 win by submission, never been finished. I know how good Duncan's striking is, but so far he's been given a lot of easy fights in the UFC, except for the Armand Petrosian fight, which he lost. And in his debut, he won because his opponent's knee got injured, so that wasn't even a legit win. So that leaves us with his 2 wins over Ribeiro and Tululan, which I don't know if either of them have won a fight in the UFC. If they have, it's probably just one. So, where was I at? And yeah, man, he no doubt he has some really good unorthodox striking, very technical and good at setting up his strikes in a lot of different ways and creating crazy angles and stuff like that. He's a tall, long, rangy guy. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. He will have the advantage with his kicks for sure, but the power advantage, I think, on the hands goes to Rodrigues, no doubt. If Duncan got taken down by Petrosian, I think, Rodrigues has a very good shot at taking him down as well because Rodrigues is a way higher level grappler than Petrosian. That's my main worry in this fight, I guess, really, is I do think Rodrigues, if he fights smart, can go out here and take Duncan down. Duncan has great spinning attacks, throws nice straight shots, good jumping knees, and crazy elbow strikes. He had a long amateur career as well, where he did lose quite a few fights as an amateur, but overall had a pretty decent record at 17-6 as an amateur. Decent record, either way. He has great footwork, really fast, fights well from both stances. He did appear to get pretty tired in the 3rd round of the Petrosian fight, which makes sense because of all the big movements and volume and jumping and spinning stuff he throws. He does show only 50% takedown defense, so there is a hole in his game there. And when he was doing all that stuff against Petrosian, doing his thing that he does, he kind of looked ridiculous because he was throwing a bunch of crazy stuff that wasn't landing. And, Petrosian was just, a good kickboxer, so he knew how to stay out of the way of everything, and Duncan wasn't landing anything. And he did kind of tire himself out, doing that. I'm sure there's a lot of things, Rodrigues can take from watching the Petrosian fight. Duncan shows 63% striking accuracy with 51% striking defense, 14% takedown accuracy with 50% takedown defense. He lands on average 5.96 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.82. He's taking on Gregory Rodrigues. He is 32 years old, 6'3" with a 75-inch reach. He is 15-5 and 6-2 in the UFC, and he's the plus 105 underdog. This fight doesn't even really make sense for Rodrigues to be taking this fight. He's done so much more in the UFC and beat way tougher competition, way further up the rankings, and he's way further up in the rankings, and he needs to stop fighting guys that are beneath him. Rodrigues is one of my favorite fighters. Big knockout power, great boxing, but his key to winning this fight is his world-class grappling. Man, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, very dangerous on the ground. Even though he's pretty much been knocking everybody out in the UFC, the question is will he fight smart and use his advantage? Because he hasn't always done that. That's how he got knocked out by Bruno Ferreira, a debuting fighter. When he fought Ferreira, another fight that he should have just not taken. Rodrigues is very strong in the clinch. He's gonna be taller by an inch. He's a lot bigger muscle wise, probably a lot stronger. It'll be very interesting to see how Duncan deals with a legit UFC level fighter like Rodrigues. Rodrigues would be smart to look for the takedowns and keep the fight in the clinch early, tire out Duncan, use his advantage on the ground, look for the trip takedowns. And he does have pretty good trip and body lock takedowns. 9 wins by knockout, 4 wins by submission. He's never been submitted, but has been knocked out a couple times. And he shows 56% striking accuracy with 52% striking defense. 46% takedown accuracy with 100% takedown defense. He averages almost 1 knockdown per fight, and he averages 2.46 takedowns per fight. And he lands on average 6.8 strikes per minute while absorbing 5.30. It looks like Rodrigues has the edge in all the stats except that he gets hit more than Duncan does. And I know everybody's going with Duncan. He's fast. He's the better striker. But I do think Rodrigues is the more well-rounded fighter and has the bigger power in his hands and an advantage on the ground. So I'm going to take the underdog. I'm going to take Rodrigues to win this fight by submission round 3. Super confident? No, not really. But I like Rodrigues to win the fight. Next up, we got Modestas Bukauskas taking on Marcin Prachnio. And Modestas is 30 years old. He is 6'3" with a 78-inch reach. He is 15-6 and 3-4 in the UFC, and he's a minus 145 favorite. 9 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission. And as far as his losses, most have been by finish. He's been knocked out 4 times and submitted once. He will have a 4-inch reach advantage. His safest route to victory here would be to take Prachnio down if he can, but I'm not so sure he'll be able to. And Modestas is very fast, good in and out movement. He stands real heavy on his lead leg, which is going to make him available for the leg kicks. And Prachnio does have some really dangerous leg kicks. Showed that in his last fight. Modestas seems to have tightened up a lot of things in his game since the first time he was in the UFC. Doing my research, I did see why the UFC signed him in the first place, because before he went to the UFC the first time, he had 10 wins by finish, which was almost all of his wins at the time. And he has big power in his hands, and I just noticed that he's been throwing a lot more kicks and switching stances a lot more than before, being a little bit safer and whatnot. He mainly beat Tyson Pedro with his superior conditioning. He is a very fast guy, like I said, for a big guy. His head movement looked a lot improved. He's also still kind of a young guy, constantly improving. Great kicks for a big guy as well. Great counters, has a nasty straight right hand, and he's good at landing shots as he's backing away and angling off. And he always moves off to the side. He doesn't ever back straight up. He did get taken down in a few of his fights in the UFC. I don't think he's gonna have to worry about that in this fight. Prachnio's not a guy that really goes for takedowns that much, but I do think a lot of people underestimate Prachnio and how good his striking is. Modestas is coming off a nasty knockout loss as well, so who knows, how he's gonna look. He does throw some decent calf kicks, but not as good as Prachnio. Used his jab pretty well, and he showed 41% striking accuracy with 50% striking defense. Never landed a takedown in the UFC, according to UFC.com, which is surprising. I guess maybe Tyson Pedro fell down and he ended up on top. I don't know. 71% takedown defense, and he lands on average 3.28 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.87. He's only had one finish in the UFC, and that was back in 2020. I think that was his debut. And he's taking on Marcin Prachnio. He is 36 years old. He's 6'3" with a 74-inch reach. 17-7 and 4-5 in the UFC, and he's a plus 120 underdog. I think he's a plus 125 now, actually. He's got 11 wins by knockout, 1 win by submission. He had a rough start to his UFC career, which is kind of why everybody's been counting him out and kind of wrote him off. And he got knocked out 3 times in a row, man, but he did bounce back with a win over Khalil Roundtree, which is impressive considering what Roundtree's done since. He comes from a kickboxing background, uses kind of a karate-type style, great kicks, side kicks, all that stuff. Wide variety of kicks is what he has the most success with in his fights. And he went 4-0 and won fighting championship, which is where I knew him from. I was familiar with him before the UFC, and I was really excited to see him come to the UFC because of the fights and one that I'd watched. He has better striking technique, and he's made improvements. He's learned after those knockout losses to kind of fight safer. And in his fight with William Knight, man, Knight just couldn't get anything going, and Marcin just ate him up with leg kicks until he could barely stand. And his footwork looked much improved, and he's very effective with his kicks. The way he throws his kicks, it's hard to tell which way he's going, where they're coming from. If anything, I will say one thing about him. He was doing well enough in the Vitor Petrino fight that Petrino had to resort to the grappling and wrestling and take him down and find a submission. I may be a bit biased because I'm more of a fan of Prachnio's because I used to watch him in 1FC, but I would rather see him win this fight, and if he can keep it on the feet, I think he has a good chance. He's never shot a takedown in the UFC. He's coming off a win over Devin Clark, who had just beaten Don Jung. He switches stances back and forth, fights well from both sides. He has the better kicks, and like I said, those are his best weapons. Good counters. Has a great lead left hook off the stance switch, and his takedown defense looked improved in his last fight against Devin Clark. He didn't get taken down. Great knees in the clinch. He throws a wider variety of strikes, and the fact that Modestas hasn't been knocking anybody out in the UFC makes me less willing to pick Modestas in this fight. Because if you can't put Prachnio out, he's going to beat you up from the outside with kicks and point his way to a victory, in my opinion. Both these guys have been knocked out 4 times, so I don't feel very strongly that either one is more likely to get knocked out than the other. Prachnio shows 55% striking accuracy with 55% striking defense, 58% takedown defense, and he lands on average 5.61 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.30. I'm going to go with the underdog. I'm going to take Prachnio to win this fight by decision, just using those kicks and his little blitzing attacks and land the volume with all his kicks and everything and win the decision. I'm picking a lot of dogs on this card. Next up, we got Sam Patterson taking on Kiefer Crosbie. Grab some water real quick. Running myself out of breath. I did find, I really enjoy Alpha Brain, but it's pretty expensive, to be taking it constantly all the time. But I did find an alternative. I wish I had the bottle with me here. I could tell y'all what it is, but it's more affordable. It's not quite as good as Alpha Brain, but it's a neurotropic. However you say it. I hope that's how you say that. I sound like an idiot, but yeah, I mean it's pretty close, and it's more affordable. It's like a quarter of the price. So I'll tell y'all what it is next video. I'll remember. But it's helped me out a lot, like doing my notes and everything, because I've been dragging here lately because I've been constantly working out of town and constantly working nights, and I always fight that schedule. I'm never going to totally commit to the night shift schedule, because on my days off, I like to get up at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, work on my notes all day, watch fights, But anyways, back to the back to the fight. Sam Patterson is 28 years old. He is 6'3" with a 78-inch reach. He's 11-2-1 and 1-1 in the UFC, and he's a minus 375 favorite. Sam was a huge lightweight, and now he's a huge welterweight. Even going up a weight class. He got clipped in his debut, but came back and showed how well-rounded he was against Johan Lynese. He's gonna have a he's well-rounded. He's gonna have an 8-inch reach advantage. He's gonna be 4 inches taller. 4 wins by knockout, 6 wins by submission. Never been submitted, but was knocked out twice. Never lost a decision either. Most of his wins have been by finish. He's fought some decent competition on his way to the UFC. He was in Brave FC fighting tough Russian guys. He beat Felipe Silva, who used to fight in the UFC. He beat guys with records like 14-1, 7-1. He has dangerous chokes with those long arms. He's a young guy, still making improvements. Great boxing, good grappling. I think he has a big advantage on the ground here in this fight. And he does leave his chin up in the air at times, which scares me a little bit. It can be a little scary, but Crosbie was submitted in his last fight, so I definitely think he has those holes in his game. So as long as Patterson gets through the first few minutes of this fight, I think he's got this one in the bag. He just has to be careful early, but he should probably just do the same thing he did in his last fight. Get that front headlock position, whip him down to the ground, and work his way to the back from there, and look for a submission. His striking isn't bad either, man. And if he goes out there and uses his reach and his jab and stays technical, I think he wins this fight all day. He's taking on Kiefer Crosbie. He is 34 years old. He's 5'11" with a 70-inch reach. He is 10-4 and 0-1 in the UFC, and he's a plus 290 underdog. And I will say that is a high price for Patterson. And while I really like Patterson, he hasn't beat anybody in the UFC that's super, really impressed anyone yet. So be careful with the big price. But, Crosbie has 5 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission. All of his losses have been by finish, 1 knockout, 2 submissions. He went 4-3 in Bellator. Honestly, hasn't really fought a lot of tough competition. He got this opportunity in the UFC by knocking out Alex Cowboy Oliveira, who got cut from the UFC. And isn't quite the same fighter he used to be. And Crosbie, he lost quite a few of his amateur fights by finish as well. He does have good boxing. He hits very hard, but he does tend to slow down. Most of his wins are quick knockouts. So he is dangerous early, but I don't really see a lot of advantages here in this fight for him, unfortunately. So I'm going to be taking Patterson to win this fight by submission round 2. Next up, we got Mick Parkin taking on Lucas Brzski. And Mick Parkin is 28 years old. He is 6'4" with a 79-inch reach. He is 9-0 and 3-0 in the UFC. And kind of, a lot of his fights are kind of boring, decision wins, at least so far. He's a minus 215 favorite. 5 wins by knockout, 1 win by submission. Just fights very safe, doesn't take a lot of risks, good basics with his boxing. He's well rounded. He can get the fight to the ground if he needs to. But some of his fights recently have been a lot closer than the betting lines say they should be. He does use his jab very well. He has a few combinations that he's really good with. But I think he's going to have to get a finish before they start really giving him, legit opponents or start really moving him up in the rankings, in my opinion, I actually like Brzski. He is dangerous, but hasn't really had much success in the UFC yet. I would rather see Brzski win this fight, I guess, and I'm tempted to pick him just because, Parkin's fights are usually pretty close, but he's probably gonna definitely be on the wrong end of a decision one day eventually. Parkin will. He throws good calf kicks, not the fastest heavyweight, but he tends to edge out the rounds. He's his biggest advantage in this fight will be his wrestling for sure. That's been Brzski's weakness in the past. If he can't get the fight to the ground, he could have a little bit of trouble, man. And Parkin trains with a lot of really, really good guys. He's still getting better. Throws a clean 1-2. He did get hit with some nasty shots by Usman in his last fight in the first round, but he took them pretty well. He didn't seem to be really out of it or anything, and he's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. He shows 51% striking accuracy with 60% striking defense. Pretty good number there, higher than most on the striking defense anyway. 42% takedown accuracy with 50% takedown defense. He averages 1.60 takedowns per fight, and he lands on average 4.54 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.94. He's taking on Lucas Brzski. He is 32 years old. He is 6'4" with a 78. I just said 78. It really says 78.3. But I mean, let's just call it 78 inch reach. And he is 9-4-1 and 1-3 in the UFC. And he's a plus 178 underdog. 5 wins by knockout, 2 submission wins. Never been submitted, but was knocked out twice. And I actually do like this guy's striking. I thought he should have won his debut against Martin Bidet. He puts out good volume. There are actually pictures out there that I found somewhere of him. I don't remember where I saw him at. I don't know if it was on his Instagram or what, of this guy when he was like in really good shape, like cut up and swole and just, like really good shape, and I don't know what happened. I don't know if he used to fight at 205 and then he went up to heavyweight and just kind of gained all this weight or what, but he used to look way different, than he does now. He will have a speed advantage in this fight, while Parkin is probably the more technical striker. Brzski kind of throws bigger, wider shots, but if you let him get going, he can be very effective. He beat up Johnny Walker's brother last time out, who was undefeated, showed off his good kickboxing, great calf kicks, his speed, and he showed improvements in his last fight, I guess compared to, his fight with Carl Williams. His cardio's legit, and if you have holes in your game, he can get you, I mean, I think Parkin will probably end up having to take him down, and most likely that's how this fight's going to go. Brzski throws great uppercuts, good combinations. I think I did include Parkin in the parlay, but I won't be getting heavily invested in this fight at all, and that's just mainly because I want to be able to, cheer for Brzski to win. But I think I did include Parkin on the parlay, so I guess I can't do that anymore. But Brzski shows 50% striking accuracy with 56% striking defense. 50% takedown accuracy with 37% takedown defense, and he lands on average 4.78 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.15. I'm going to be picking Parkin to win this fight by decision like he usually does using his wrestling, but deep down I kind of want Brzski to win, but hopefully not because then kill my parlay. Next up we got Elliott taking on Preston Parsons. This is one of the ones that I put up on YouTube and made a poll out of to see what everybody else thought. So I'm going to pull that up real quick so I can give you all the results of that. So at 24 votes, and 38% went with Elliott, and 63% went with Parsons. Elliott's heavily favored on Tapology, 76%. He had a lot of trouble with this one, man, and I've been going back and forth on myself with it. Parsons did look pretty good in his last fight, but Elliott's pretty dangerous as well, man. He's on a pretty good run right now. Elliott is 26 years old. He is 6 foot tall with a 72-inch reach. He is 10-2 and 1-0 in the UFC, and he's a plus 130 underdog. Two wins by knockout, three wins by submission. Both his losses have been by knockout. Came out of the Cage Warrior scene. His fight on the Contender Series was a crazy fight, a war. He almost got knocked out in his last fight, and he's kind of known for that. He gets clipped and he'll come back and win fights. He's a pretty well-rounded southpaw. He pushes a good pace, pretty good grappling, but I don't think he's going to want to engage on the ground with Parsons. Parsons is a very good wrestler / grappler as well, and I do think Oban has the advantage on the feet for sure if he can keep it there. Not the biggest power puncher, but good clean boxing. He will have a 1-inch reach advantage. Like I said, he's heavily favored on Tapology, but not on the betting line. And I find that interesting. He uses good head movement out in the open, nice single legs, good at hitting the switch whenever guys are trying to take him down. And switching the body lock over and taking the back up against the cage. Good at hitting. I keep reading the same line. My bad. That's the problem with me going off my notes like I do sometimes. I got all these little bullet points, and sometimes I'll read the same one twice. Man, lost myself. I don't put too much stock in his last win because Val Woodburn, while he's a dangerous guy, with his power, is still developing other parts of his game. So not really kind of got to the UFC a little too quickly, in my opinion. Val Woodburn. But you could just see the experience advantage for Elliott in that fight. And this is a tricky fight to pick, man. I like Oban Elliott. He's a tough dude. I kind of want him to win this fight. He's fun to watch. I just don't know how well he's going to be able to deal with the wrestling of Parsons. And he's taking on Preston Parsons. He is 29 years old. He's 5'11" with a 71-inch reach. He's 11-4 and 2-2 in the UFC, and he's a -150 favorite. No wins by knockout, but 9 wins by submission. He's been knocked out twice and submitted once. He's coming off a really big win, the biggest win of his career over Matthew Simmelsberger. He also has a win over Evan Elder, who's looked good, since. But that was up a weight class for Evan Elder as well. So he does have a submission win over Ignacio Bahamondes earlier in his career. Very good wrestling, dangerous jiu-jitsu. He was throwing great kicks to the body last time out. Very strong in the clinch. His striking has improved a lot as well. Great single legs. He'll grab the single leg and then go to the treetop and then hit the trip. He got Semmelsberger down with that a few times. He was using good head movement against Semmelsberger. Parsons can push a heavy wrestling pace, throughout the fight, and he's got good scrambles, and he's good at getting back to his feet if he's taken down. He does his best work when he's pressure fighting with his takedowns and his wrestling. Parsons shows 55% striking accuracy with 52% striking defense, 44% takedown accuracy with 80% takedown defense. Averages 4.30 takedowns per fight, and and also 3.7 submission attempts per fight. He lands on average 3.83 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.18. As far as my pick on this, man, I was telling myself to take Parsons, but I do think Oban Elliott's going to he's fighting basically at home here. He's going to be fired up. He's going to be looking for a knockout. And he showed pretty good takedown defense, thus far, and pretty good grappling. And I guess I'll go with Elliott. I'm gonna take Elliott. Take him to win by knockout. Because Parsons was knocked out by Daniel Rodrigues, so I think it can happen again. I went against the poll there, sorry. This is another one that I posted, and I actually really like Ramon Taveras. And I think he's really good. And but I posted the poll on this one. We got 28 votes and 86% with loughran and 14% with Taveras. I think it could possibly be an even closer fight than that. I really want Taveras to win, but I do think Taveras has the better boxing, the bigger power. But I think loughran might be able to use his wrestling. I don't know. So, but either way, Keelan Loughran is 9-1, 28 years old, 5'6", with a 68-inch reach. He is 1-1 in the UFC, and he's a -200 favorite. 5 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission. Never been finished. He had a tough debut against Taylor Lapillus, and then he had quite a bit easier fight in his last fight. Um, this is a real dangerous fight for Loughran. He's not going to want to strike with Taveras too much, even though he does have pretty good boxing, good wrestling. He just couldn't really keep Lapillus down. Uh, Very strong and muscular, hits real hard as well. He's got a big ass head. Takes a good punch. Doesn't throw a ton of kicks, and wasn't checking the calf kicks in his last fight. He does have a nice straight right hand. He takes his time in the striking. Doesn't throw a super wide variety of strikes. Kind of just good basics. But he is good with what he does, and throws good combinations. He'll double up the jab at times. He is very good, man. I understand why everybody's really high on him. He was getting pieced up in the second round a little bit in his last fight at the beginning of the round, but he was able to use the wrestling and take the round back over. So I could see this fight kind of going that way. Um, you know, eh, Good ground and pound, explosive double legs. I think he's going to have the advantage on the ground. But if he can't get Taveras down, it could be an ugly fight for him. He's taking on Ramon Taveras. He is 30 years old. He is 5'8" with a 70-inch reach. He is 10-2 and 1-0 in the UFC, and he's a plus 165 underdog. 5 wins by knockout, 3 wins by submission. Never been submitted, but was knocked out twice. He went 6-1 as an amateur. Most of his wins have been by finish. Both him and the guy he fought last time kind of showed that they are legit, fighters and deserve to be here. I wasn't totally sure about the decision in his last fight, but it was a good fight, and he showed off his power and his boxing. He fights southpaw mostly. He will switch at times. I think he does that when he's throwing the kick, the low kick. Good head movement, good check hook. Does use a very boxing heavy approach, and wasn't throwing a lot of kicks at all, in his last fight. He is a good counter striker, good at slipping off to the right and going to the body with his punches, big power. He definitely has the better hands, in my opinion, in this fight. Good side-to-side movement. His takedown defense has looked good so far, but we'll find out in this fight. He does a lot of damage with his strikes, man, and he does have pretty good striking defense. He's very good at getting out of the way of punches. And he was struggling with the pressure late in his last fight. The guy Taveras beating his last fight was a very really good fighter. And like I said, I don't know if Taveras should have won that fight, but he definitely did some damage, more damage, and he definitely won the first round. The second round, he kind of dropped a guy at the beginning of the round, and then the guy took over the rest of the round. So it was I guess that's why they gave it to him. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage here. He did have trouble making weight the last time out, so hopefully he's got that down, and that could be part of the reason why he was getting very tired in that fight. He looked really tired in the third round. And I think if Taveras went to a camp like Fortis or somewhere, he would make huge improvements and be a really, really tough guy to beat. And, as long as the fight's on the feet, he could bust, Loughran up. But I guess I'm going to go with the wrestling of Loughran. I think he's going to have to take Taveras down and hold him down. And I think his cardio is better, so he'll be able to push a tougher pace, late in the fight. Taveras will probably win round 1. And then Loughran will win the last 2 rounds and win a decision. Next up, we got Molly McCann taking on Bruna Brasil. Molly McCann is 34 years old. She is 5'4" with a 62-inch reach. She is 14-6 and 7-5 in the UFC, and she's a minus 280 favorite. Molly did impress me the last time out. It wasn't a win over like a high-level competitor or anything, but the way she did it, you could tell that she's been working hard on her wrestling and her ground game after getting submitted twice in a row. One of those by a really bad fighter. Her takedown defense isn't really all that good, never has been, but I don't think she's going to have to worry about that in this fight. She has huge power, good spinning back elbows. She's very strong for the weight class. She's going to be the smaller fighter here, but that's nothing that she's not used to. And she has 6 wins by knockout, 1 win by submission. She's never been knocked out, but has been submitted 3 times. I'm not big on betting on most women's fights because they can be close sometimes. I'm never really super confident in picking Molly or putting money on her because she does have a lot of holes in her game, especially defensively on the ground. She will have a power advantage in this fight. Based on what we've seen from Brazil so far in the UFC, Molly should win this fight for sure. She shows 50% striking accuracy with 64% striking defense, 38% takedown accuracy with 43% takedown defense. She averages 1.82 takedowns per fight, and she lands on average 5.79 strikes per minute while absorbing 4.94. And she's taking on Bruna Brasil. She is 30 years old, 5'6", with a 65.5-inch reach. She is 9-4-1 and 1-2 in the UFC, and she's a plus 230 underdog. She has 3 wins by knockout, 2 wins by submission. All of her losses have been by knockout. She has decent striking, I guess. She's tall and long for the weight class. She's going to have a 3.5-inch reach advantage. Her best weapon is her high kick, but it just hasn't really looked good since the fight on the Contender Series where she beat Mark McCann, who we've seen isn't really UFC level competition. Even in her win, she was so much bigger than her opponent, and she just didn't really look good. Even in her win, it was a close fight. In her last fight, she was way bigger than her opponent and didn't do anything with it. And I'm not going to be betting on this fight much at all, but I'll probably put Molly in a parlay. But all signs point to Molly getting the win here, and I'll take her to win by knockout round 2 since most of Brazil's losses have been by knockout. Sorry, I guess there was one that wasn't her last fight. Next up, we got Nathaniel Wood taking on Daniel Pineda. And Nathaniel Wood is 30 years old, 5'6", with a 69-inch reach. He is 19-6 and 7-3 in the UFC, and he's a minus 435 favorite. 7 wins by knockout, 6 wins by submission. I like Nathaniel Wood. I think he's really good. But honestly, we kind of saw, proof in his last fight that he is a little bit too small for the weight class. Because, he came up from 135, and I guess it's better for him. He probably feels better, but granted, Naimov was doing a lot of cheating in that fight, and Wood had his moments. But Wood was kind of getting bullied at times in that fight just by, Naimov's wrestling and throwing him around and whatnot. Once again, he's fighting another big, strong guy here. Pineda's, they're about almost the same height, but Pineda's like a really big, muscular, strong guy. So, it's kind of a worry, but I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him get, taken down again here. But Wood has the way better striking out of these two. He'll have a big speed advantage, probably a power advantage on the feet. Throws great calf kicks, great combinations. He hits hard for a guy that you may think is too small for the weight class. And, of course, he's still won fights. He's done pretty well up in this weight class, but we have seen him hurt in several of these fights, as well. But he's competitive with everyone, and as long as he keeps it on the feet, he's going to outstrike Pineda here for sure. He does have nice trip takedowns. He's usually at a height and reach disadvantage at featherweight coming up from 135, so it's nothing he's not used to. These guys do have the same reach, though. I was thinking Pineda had a reach advantage. He's good at slipping punches and countering off the slip. I know he hasn't won a fight by knockout in the UFC, but he always drops guys and hurts them in most of his fights. Fast hands, great combinations. He's always such a big favorite. The price makes me nervous, but this is a step down in competition for him compared to who he's been fighting. He's super well-rounded. He's going to have a cardio advantage in this fight for sure. He shows 50% striking accuracy with 57% striking defense. 48% takedown accuracy with 71% takedown defense. Averages 1.74 takedowns per fight, and he lands on average 5.91 strikes per minute while absorbing 4.22. And he's taking on Daniel Pineda. He is 38 years old, almost 39. 5'7" with a 69-inch reach. He is 28-15 and 5-6 in the UFC, and he's a plus 290 underdog. I mean, this guy's a veteran, over 40 fights. 9 wins by knockout, 19 wins by submission. Never won a fight by decision, and he's been knocked out 3 times and submitted 6 times. He is powerful, man. He has decent wrestling. No real impressive wins in the UFC yet at all. It's been over a year since he's fought, but he's getting close to 40 years old now, and he does get very tired in the 3rd round. His best bet will be to take Wood down and keep him there if he can. I guess it's possible he could do that. But I do see Wood winning the striking exchanges, and I think Wood's going to win this fight, probably by late TKO. Probably be his first TKO in the UFC, round 3. After Daniel gets tired. I don't have a lot to say on Pineda's behalf on this one. Wood should win this fight. Unless something crazy happens, I guess. But I got Wood to win the fight. Next up, we got Bobby Green taking on Paddy Pimblett. Bobby Green is 37 years old. He is 5'10 with a 71-inch reach. He is 32-15-1 and 13-10-1 in the UFC, minus 128 favorite. And this fight will come down to how good Pimblett's grappling is. Bobby's one of my favorite fighters. He's got 11 wins by knockout, 9 wins by submission. He's fought the tougher competition. He has the better wins. He has amazing boxing. Some of the best head movement and striking defense we've ever seen. And he's very good at rolling with punches and really softening the blow on strikes when he's hit. Green was looking really good in the Drew Dober fight before he got caught. He was piecing Dober up. He's a very good counter striker. He's a very, very tricky striker, man. He keeps his hands down low so you don't see the punches coming. He's very fast. He doesn't telegraph his shots at all. He fights southpaw. He can be very hard to hit as well. And I would love to see him win this fight. He showed off his grappling against Tony Ferguson. He finished Tony Ferguson, whereas Patty was only able to take him to a decision. And Green put a beating on, the legend Jim Miller last time out. And if he can stuff the takedowns, it's his fight all day here. He throws good front kicks up the middle, very fast. He's very good at creating angles and walking guys down. Great at managing distance. Once he gets going, he's hard to deal with. Once you let him get his rhythm going, very hard to deal with. And he fights well from both stances. He's one of my favorites. He is getting up there in age, but he's still just as fast as he always has been. Probably better than he ever has been now. It's a pretty close line on Tapology, with Green slightly favored. We haven't got to see much of Green's takedown defense lately since the Islam Makhachev fight. He shows 53% striking accuracy with 62% striking defense, 39% takedown accuracy with 74% takedown defense. Averages 1.19 takedowns per fight, and he lands on average 6.45 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.75. He's taking on Paddy Pimblett. He is 29 years old. He is 5'10 with a 73-inch reach. He is 21-3 and 5-0 in the UFC, and he's a plus 110 underdog. 5 wins by knockout, 10 wins by submission. Never been knocked out, but was submitted one time. I thought he lost the Jared Gordon fight. All his other wins in the UFC so far, not really all that impressive as far as the level of competition. I can't stand this guy for some reason, but he is a good fighter. I won't say he's not. He throws great low kicks. He does have good grappling when he gets the fight to the ground, but that's not always the case. He does have a lot of trouble getting the fight to the ground sometimes. He will have a 2-inch reach advantage. I don't think he's going to win this fight on the feet, in my opinion. His striking did look pretty good in his last fight, but he was fighting like the shell of Tony Ferguson, so he doesn't have a very high percentage on his takedown accuracy, so that points to Green winning this fight, honestly. For some reason, I'm a little worried about going against Patty here. I've been trying to look for a reason to pick him. He does have great ground and pound. I just don't think he's going to be able to get the fight to the ground. Patty shows 53% striking accuracy with 41% striking defense, 25% takedown accuracy with 56% takedown defense. Averages 1 takedown per fight, 1.63 submission attempts per fight, and he lands on average 5.13 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.70. I'm taking Bobby Green to win this fight by decision using his boxing and landing the superior volume. Next up, we got Muhammad Mokaev taking on Manel Kape. This is another one I'm pretty nervous about. But after the way Mokaev looked in his last fight, Mokaev is 23 years old, 5'7 with a 70-inch reach. He's 11-0 and 6-0 in the UFC. Minus 122 favorite. 1 win by knockout, 6 wins by submission. We've seen kind of the decline in his performances as he's gone up in the rankings. He lost the first round to Tim Elliott. He arguably should have lost the Alex Perez fight last time out. And I had money on him in that fight, and he looked absolutely terrible to me. So, kind of scared me away from putting any money on him again. And we saw that, if he can't get the takedowns, he struggles on the feet, and he will have to get the takedowns in this fight if he wants to win. It's not even close on the feet. Granted, he's a young guy. He's got tons of room for improvement. I wish this was a 5-round fight so we could really see what Mokaev is really made of. I have a feeling he may not have the cardio to keep that crazy wrestling pace for 5 rounds, especially if he can't get the takedowns anyway, like in his last fight. He kept dropping down to his knees, looking for takedowns when Perez would swing at him, and it just looked horrible for the judges. I'm surprised they gave it to him. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. He always Doesn't do a whole lot of damage when he has guys on the ground, but he always looks for the submission. Does have great wrestling, great single legs, doubles, trips, body lock takedowns, great submissions. And looking at his numbers, he has a pretty high number of takedowns per fight. He shows 48% striking accuracy with 57% striking defense, 42% takedown accuracy. They don't have his takedown defense listed, but he was taken down by Tim Elliott in that fight. Averages 5.75 takedowns per fight and 1.3 submission attempts per fight. And he lands on average only 1.53 strikes per minute while absorbing 1.36. So doesn't hit people a lot, but he doesn't get hit a lot either because of the wrestling. He's taking on Manel Kape. He is 30 years old. He's 5'5" with a 68-inch reach. 19-6 and 4-2 in the UFC. He's plus 102 underdog. 11 wins by knockout, 5 wins by submission. Never been knocked out, but was submitted twice early in his career. Hasn't been submitted since 2017. So I guess maybe not super early in his career, but it's been a while. This guy's good, man, and he was a champion over in Ryzen. He's fought all over the world. He's the more well-rounded fighter in that he has legit striking, and he's also dangerous off of his back. The only thing that sucks, about Kape is that, and this isn't completely his fault, but he's had fight after fight fall out since being in the UFC, and usually it's his opponents that drop out, but it's also been him a few times as well. So it's hard for me to believe that this fight's actually going to happen, but there's a lot that Manel can learn from watching Mokaev's last fight. Kape has made a ton of improvements since being in the UFC. He has nasty flying knees and jumping attacks that are a legit danger to Mokaev shooting on takedowns. Nasty elbows and knees in close, great combinations, huge power advantage. Just all around better striker, man. And I'm a really big fan of Kape's. I just wish we would have been able to see some of these fights he was supposed to have, other than this one. Because I think if he had fought Perez or Figueiredo or Kara France, he would probably have already fought for a title by now. The only person that's been able to truly get the best of him is the current champ, and the fight that he had with Nicolau was very close. So I mean, as a split decision. So it's not like Nicolau dominated him. But he made the adjustments after those first 2 fights in the UFC, and he's fought more aggressively. He has great footwork, big speed advantage on the feet, great calf kicks, and this is going to be in a big octagon on a pay-per-view, so he'll have plenty of room to run around and try to avoid the takedowns. Uses good feints to set up his strikes. And does anybody really want to see Mokaev fight for the title? I mean, just to probably be mostly him trying to get takedowns the whole time. In my opinion, he needs to have at least one 5-round fight before he gets a title shot. Kape was a champion in another organization, and in one of the bigger organizations over in Asia. Kape shows 55% striking accuracy with 60% striking defense, 38% takedown accuracy with 78% takedown defense, averages just over 1 knockdown per fight, and he lands on average 5.12 strikes per minute while absorbing 4.51. I'm going to go with Kape to win this fight. I'm not super confident, but I like that he does a lot of damage and he hurts guys, and it would be cool for him to win by knockout, but I'll take him to win by decision based on damage. Next up, we got Arnold Allen taking on Giga Chikadze. This is a really good fight. Don't know if a lot of people are going to agree with me on this one. Arnold Allen is 30 years old. He's 5'8" with a 70-inch reach. He is 19-3 and 10-2 in the UFC, and he's a minus 250 favorite. 7 wins by knockout, 4 wins by submission, never been finished. I'm actually really shocked that he's such a big favorite here, because I'm not sure he's going to be able to outstrike Giga on the feet, and I think he's going to need to use wrestling to win this fight, and that's not typically how he fights. I am a very big Arnold Allen fan. He's had a great run in the UFC. He does have good kickboxing, uses his jab really well, goes to the body a lot with his punches. It really comes down to how well he's going to be able to get on the inside against a taller, longer fighter with such great kicks. Allen has fought the tougher competition probably, but I would say that Giga's win over Edson Barboza a few years ago is a lot more impressive than most of Allen's wins, because that was Barboza a few years ago. But this is a tricky fight, man, because, knowing that this fight's going to play out on the feet most likely, it's hard to go against Giga. I would say that Allen is the more well-rounded fighter out of these two. He got more submission wins and he trains with, Edwards and Aspinall and, all those good fighters over there. Allen shows 41% striking accuracy with 61% striking defense, 50% takedown accuracy with 75% takedown defense. Averages 1 takedown per fight, and he lands on average 3.39 strikes per minute while absorbing 2.91. He's taking on Giga Chikadze. He is 35 years old, 6 foot tall with a 74-inch reach. He is 15-3 and 8-1 in the UFC, and he's a plus 210 underdog. 9 wins by knockout, 1 win by submission. Never been knocked out, but was submitted 1 time. Comes from a high-level kickboxing background. His kicks are some of his best weapons, and that's definitely an advantage he's going to have in this fight. He throws a very wide variety of kicks and strikes and elbows. He's much taller. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. He's very technical and accurate. Throws nice straight punches, great calf kicks, and really digs those toes in when he lands that front kick to the body. I know he lost to Cater, but maybe he just had a bad night. I mean, it happens. He seemed to really get tired in that fight, and that's what led to the downfall, because I think that was a 5-round fight. He's very fast and explosive. He's really good at checking kicks, nasty spin attacks, no windup, great flying knee and elbow attacks. Fights well from both stances. Throws great kicks with the lead leg. He's a lot to deal with on the feet. And he shows 43% striking accuracy with 63% striking defense, 33% takedown accuracy with 70% takedown defense. So not terrible takedown defense. Averages close to 1 knockdown per fight, and he lands on average 4.8 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.44. And this is the one where, I want Allen to win. But for some reason, there's just a gut feeling to me that Chikadze is going to win this fight. And I don't know why. I know everybody's going with Allen. I'll probably be the only one going with Chikadze. But it's kind of like, Christian Rodrigues and Julian Erosa last week. My gut was telling me to pick Erosa. I went against it because of what everybody else thought. And I hate it when I do that. So I'm not going to do it again. I'm going to take, Chikadze to win this fight with his kickboxing. Landing his kicks and stuff from the outside. And I'll take it to win by decision. I'll take it to win by decision. Would be crazy if he knocked out Arnold Allen, though. Not likely. Next up, we got the co-main event, Tom Aspinall versus Curtis Blaydes 2. Tom Aspinall is 31 years old. He is 6'5" with a 78-inch reach. 14-3 and 7-1 in the UFC. And he is a minus 390 favorite. 10 wins by knockout, 4 wins by submission. All of his wins have been by finish. He's never gone to a decision. He's never been legitimately knocked out. He was submitted really early in his career. At least I think. Let me look at that and check that again. Yeah, he lost. I guess he got disqualified once, and then he lost due to that. So, yeah, the knockout loss was because he hurt his knee in the Blaydes fight, so that wasn't a legit knockout loss. Where was I at? He's a heavyweight that moves like a welterweight, very fast and explosive, good wrestling, well-rounded, great submissions, really accurate with his strikes, really good boxing, huge power, man, and he's been really impressive. Possibly the best heavyweight that we've ever seen. Jones doesn't want to fight him right now. Jones is great, don't get me wrong, but he spent most of his career at light heavyweight, so I still consider Tom to be a better heavyweight because, Tom's done more at heavyweight. Jones has only fought once at heavyweight. He was kind of just the title was available, so they gave it. They gave it to him. Gon shouldn't have been fighting for a title. He lost to Ngannou. Either way, but Tom smoked the guy that knocked out Blaydes super quick. Tom's never been taken down. Tom's numbers are so impressive when you go over them, man. He shows 67% striking accuracy with 66% striking defense, both good numbers. 100% takedown accuracy with 100% takedown defense. Averages 3.46 knockdowns per 15 minutes and 1.73 submissions. And he averages 3.46 takedowns per fight. And he lands on average 7.72 strikes per minute while absorbing 2.77. Those are all solid numbers all the way around. There's very few people that are going to have better numbers than that. Average fight time of 2 minutes and 10 seconds, He's just so much faster and more athletic than all the other guys at heavyweight, man. Great calf kicks, great head movement. The way he blitzes in with that big right hand, that straight right hand shot, that he caught Marcin Tybura with, guys just aren't used to dealing with guys that fast at heavyweight. So He's taking on Curtis Blaydes. He is 33 years old, 6'4" with an 80-inch reach. He is 18-4 and 13-4 in the UFC, and he's a plus 295 underdog. 13 wins by knockout, no wins by submission. All his losses have been by knockout, all four. Has a wrestling background, big guy, 2-inch reach advantage, but honestly, guys, I don't think he stands a chance here in this fight. Tom is too fast and too powerful, and Curtis' best bet would be to shoot takedowns and try to get Tom down. I just don't know that he'll be able to. Um, I'm going to be taking Tom to win this fight by first round knockout. Keeping it simple on that one. Next up, we got the main event. Leon Edwards taking on Belal Muhammad for a second time. Obviously, the first fight, Edwards was kicking Belal's ass, and then he poked him in the eye, and Belal couldn't continue. So, Leon Edwards is 32 years old, coming up on 33. He is 6'2" with a 74-inch reach. He is 22-3 and 14-2-1 in the UFC, and he's a minus 215 favorite. 7 wins by knockout, 3 wins by submission, never been finished. He's just gotten so much better since he's won the title, man. And, he showed his improved takedown defense. He's always been, a really technical striker. Not to mention that he was beating Belal up on the feet the first time they fought. I don't think Belal's going to be able to take Edwards down, which is his only chance at winning this fight. He's not going to outstrike Leon. Leon is way taller. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. Leon fights very smart. He doesn't leave a lot of openings. He's on a 12-fight win streak right now. Edwards has lots of 5-round experience, while Belal has only fought 5 rounds one time in the UFC. He throws great front kicks up the middle. He's very measured and patient. He'll switch back and forth with certain combinations. Just perfect technique on everything he does, and he has a great jab. He's good at cutting off the cage. I just think that he's levels above most people in the division. Really, the legit threat to him right now is, I think Shavkat Rakhmonov is going to be a future champion one day. Jack Della Maddalena has a good chance on the feet with Edwards, but if Edwards can use his wrestling and get, Maddalena down, he can win that fight. He shows 53% striking accuracy with 55% striking defense, 35% takedown accuracy with 70% takedown defense, averages 1.25 takedowns per fight, and he lands on average 2.75 strikes per minute while absorbing 2.34. So not a lot of volume, but he does tend to land the cleaner strikes and the bigger strikes. He's taking on Belal Muhammad. Remember the name. 36 years old, 5'11", with a 72-inch reach. 23-3 and 14-3 in the UFC, and he's a plus 178 underdog. 5 wins by knockout, 1 win by submission. He's never been submitted, but was knocked out by Vicente Luque. He also lost to Jeff Neal and Alan Jouban in the UFC. And the Jeff Neal loss wasn't all that long ago, a few years back. I think. Let me look. It's 2019, so I guess it has been a while. He's on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 fight win streak right now. Belal hasn't beat anybody in the top 5. He did beat Gilbert Burns, but Burns injured his shoulder in that fight and really was just kind of holding on after the first round. So I don't know if they ran it back, if he would win again. I don't know. You tell me what y'all think. He's going to have to use his wrestling to win this fight, and I don't think he'll be able to get Edwards down, honestly. Edwards, takedown defense was so much improved in the second Usman fight. I don't think if Usman has trouble getting him down, I think Muhammad's kind of out of luck there. His striking isn't good enough to hang with Edwards on the feet, and I don't think, man, there's not a lot to say here for me, on Belal's behalf. He is a good fighter, don't get me wrong, but Edwards has the better wins. He's fought the tougher competition. They both have won a lot of decisions, but I think Edwards has more finishes in the UFC. I think he has 5 and Belal has 2 or something. You can just tell that Leon has been a lifelong striker, whereas Belal striking, while it looked better recently, is kind of a new thing in his game. He was able to outstrike Sean Brady, but I think Sean Brady kind of got tired in that fight, and I can't believe that Belal is getting a title shot before a guy like Shavkat Rakhmonov, who's finished every person he's ever fought, so I don't know, it's kind of crazy to me, but Bilal shows 43% striking accuracy with 58% striking defense, 35% takedown accuracy with 93% takedown defense. Averages 2 takedowns per fight, and he lands on average 4.55 strikes per minute while absorbing 3.64. I'm taking Leon to win this fight by decision pretty dominantly. Maybe Bilal still's around, but going with Leon to win this fight. That's it for my picks, guys. As far as my bets go, pull these up. So I got a 2-fight parlay that's Sam Patterson and Tom Aspinall, minus 145. It's a 1-unit play. Half-unit play on Leon Edwards at minus 210. Got a 2-fight parlay that's Nathaniel Wood and Bobby Green. That's plus 119. That's actually like just, it says a quarter unit, but it's actually $200. So I'll be good as long as these top 2 plays hit. I'll be all right. Those are my more confident ones. But I wanted a little action on Nathaniel Wood somehow, and wanted to make it worth it. So either way, the plus money's good there. So, and then I made an underdog parlay because I decided rather than put all my underdogs that I picked into my parlay, my main parlays, I would just put them all together on a separate parlay. That way they didn't kill my parlays. But I got a 4-fight parlay that I put $50 on. That's Rodrigues, Chikadze, kape, and prachnio, and that's a plus 2,788. And just $50 on that, so that might save my other parlays, but it'd be crazy if this hit. As far as my parlays go, I got one, not a very high odds on these, but I got a 6-fight parlay that's like my more confident picks on the card. Nathaniel Wood, Molly McCann, Sam Patterson, Mitch Parkin, Tom Aspinall, Leon Edwards. That's plus 481. And then to that, I just added Bobby Green. That's plus 935. I could have put some dogs in there, man, but I feel more confident doing it this way. I'm tired of wasting, $200 on parlays, that I rebuild and shit like that. So going with that, man, and hopefully those will hit. As far as anything else, let's look at this card that's coming up this weekend. See if there's any changes I need to go over. Everything looks the same so far. Yeah, everything still looks the same. So, once again, man, thank you guys so much for being here and for caring what I had to say. I really appreciate, each one of you guys. I enjoy talking to you guys on Instagram and stuff like that. Please like and subscribe, man, if you haven't. I know I only get about, either 1,200 to 1,400 views on each of my videos. Very small channel, But if everybody would subscribe, man, it would help me out a lot, get me over 1,000. Because once you get over 1,000, then you can actually start trying to do other things with your channel, more stuff and everything, and they'll actually promote your channel more. So thank you guys so much once again. I hope you guys win some money, man. I'm out of here.